Good evening, viewers across the globe. Today, in a surprising and fiery address at the prestigious Microsoft AI and Innovation Summit, former U.S. President Donald J. Trump sent shockwaves through the global tech industry in a bold declaration that echoed the energy and nationalism of Africa's rising voice, particularly that of Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim. Trump took center stage and issued a direct challenge to the world's tech powerhouses like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Stop outsourcing American jobs. Hire Americans first, not Indians or cheap overseas labor. Yes, you heard that right. In what many are calling a dramatic shift in rhetoric, Trump is now drawing clear inspiration from Captain Ibrahim. A fierce, unapologetic nationalism and self-reliance model, a model that has gained growing admiration across developing nations and even in Western political circles. Now, what makes this statement so profound? It's the global context. In recent years, Western governments, while promoting free market values, have ironically seen their own industries increasingly dependent on foreign talent, especially in critical sectors like tech, cybersecurity, and AI. Jobs that once provided American workers with upward mobility are now being outsourced or handed over to imported talent. And just as Captain has boldly rejected the long-standing dominance of foreign corporations over African resources and called for jobs for people, Trump is now sounding a similar alarm: America first in technology. He warned that American companies have become overly reliant on imported talent, often at the expense of local workers, graduates, and developers who are either underemployed or completely shut out of the tech boom. He asked, "Why is it easier for a graduate in Bangalore to get an interview at Google than a graduate from Detroit or Kansas City?" This is not just about economics, it's about national dignity, youth empowerment, and ownership of the future, and the parallels with are undeniable. Captain Ibrahim, despite leading one of Africa's poorest countries, has become a global symbol of resistance against foreign exploitation, from reclaiming control of mineral resources, to establishing domestic farming and manufacturing initiatives, to building infrastructure, all without relying on Western handouts. He has shown what is possible when a leader dares to say, "Let us build our nation with our people." Trump, albeit in a completely different context, is now echoing that same vision, urging Americans to reclaim their dominance in fields they pioneered and stop handing the future to foreign tech workers just because they are cheaper. Of course, his statement has already stirred massive debate, with Silicon Valley executives defending their global hiring models as inclusive, cost-effective, and necessary for innovation. But critics, including Trump and his supporters, argue that this model has left many American families behind, eroded wages, and made the U.S. tech industry dangerously dependent on talent pipelines that can vanish in times of global tension. Interestingly, some analysts are even calling this moment a reverse inspiration, where Africa is now inspiring the West. Think about that. After centuries of being dictated to, lectured, and economically controlled, African leadership, particularly from voices like is now shaping conversations in boardrooms and government halls across Europe and the United States. Donald Trump's statement may be controversial, but it forces a conversation that is long overdue. It challenges not only hiring practices but also the very foundation of economic sovereignty, a subject that Captain has refused to compromise on. As the global tech landscape shifts rapidly with AI, automation, and data control, the question Trump raises, much like, is this, who gets to own the future? And who gets left behind? Ladies and gentlemen, the winds are changing. Where once the West led and Africa followed, we are now witnessing a global realignment of ideas. As leadership has proven that true strength lies not in following others, but in believing in your people, investing in your youth, and protecting your national interest. And now the world is beginning to take notice, even former presidents of the United States. Stay with us as we bring you reactions from tech leaders, African analysts, and political insiders on this developing story. The revolution of thought is no longer one-sided, it's global. Thank you.
Many of our largest tech companies have reaped the blessings of American freedom while building their factories in China, hiring workers in India, and slashing profits in Ireland. You know that? All the while dismissing and even censoring their fellow citizens right here at home. Under President Trump, those days are over. We need U.S. technology companies to be all in for America. We want you to put America first. You have to do that. That's all we ask. That's all we ask. To partner with our tech geniuses in achieving this vision, today we're releasing the White House AI Action Plan. Big stuff. We're signing it right after, right there. Maybe I should just sign it right now. Who the hell has to make the rest of this speech, right? But here are the pillars of the strategy. First, my administration will use every tool at our disposal to ensure that the United States can build and maintain the largest, most powerful, and most advanced AI infrastructure anywhere on the planet. America needs new data centers, new semiconductor and chip manufacturing facilities, new power plants and transmission lines. And under my leadership, we're going to get that job done, and it's going to be done with certainty and with environmental protection and all of the things that we have to do to get it done properly. Virtually all of these large capital investments can be and should be made by the private sector. And they want to do that. They just want to be able to do it. But for that reason, America must once again be a country where innovators are rewarded with a green light, not strangled with red tape so they can't move, so they can't breathe, and that's not going to happen. You're going to see things that you've never seen in this country before. So often, and I've been watching for many years, I've watched regulation. I've been a victim of regulation. A zone change that takes 6 years for a building in Manhattan or whatever, but I was good at zone changes, but it took a long time. By the time you got the zoning, the market changed. You didn't want to build the building. You say, well, but in some cases that made you lucky, didn't it? Huh? In some, not too many people understand that in this room, but in some cases, waiting for that approval as the market collapsed was a good thing, not a bad thing. But it's time to reclaim our heritage as a nation of builders, and that's why, upon taking office, I signed a historic executive order directing that every one, and this is so important, for every new regulation, 10 old regulations must be immediately eliminated. So we have old regulations that clog up the books that don't even mean anything anymore. You know, in my first term, I had more regulation cuts than any president in history ×4, and that included two-term presidents where you...
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Good evening to all our viewers across Africa, the Americas, and beyond. Tonight we bring you a story that is making headlines on both sides of the Atlantic. A bold declaration at the heart of the global tech world that echoes a sentiment first championed not in Silicon Valley, but in the heart of West Africa. Yes, you heard right. In an electrifying moment at the Microsoft AI and Global Innovation Summit, former U.S. President Donald J. Trump made a statement that left attendees stunned and tech executives scrambling to respond. Addressing the growing frustrations of the American labor force, Trump took the stage and boldly demanded, "It's time we hire Americans, not Indians. Our jobs must return to our people." Just like Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, who is building his nation with his citizens, not outsiders. And with that single comparison, the global conversation took a turn no one expected. Trump, known for his America First policies, invoked the name of an African revolutionary leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, as a model for national prioritization and homegrown empowerment. This was not a casual mention. This was a deliberate alignment of ideologies, a former U.S. president admiring an African president for standing against global dependency. But let's break this down. What led to such a moment? The event, held in Seattle, Washington, was a gathering of the most powerful figures in artificial intelligence, data science, and global tech development. With companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon in attendance, the summit was meant to highlight the innovations AI is driving across sectors. However, it quickly turned into a political earthquake when Trump took to the stage. In a speech lasting nearly 45 minutes, Trump criticized U.S. tech firms for outsourcing American jobs. Now, to the international community, these words may sound like a typical Trump populist talking point. But what made this moment unique was his direct comparison to the African continent, and in particular, the young leader of Burkina Faso. Trump continued, "Look at what's happening in Africa. Look at Burkina Faso. A man named Captain Traoré is telling the world that African gold belongs to Africans. He's building farms, industries, railways, and he's hiring Burkinabe people to do it. That's leadership. That's patriotism. And that's what we've forgotten here in America. Let that sink in. An American president highlighting an African leader as a role model for protecting national labor and resources. But is the comparison valid? Absolutely. Let's talk about Captain Ibrahim Traoré for a moment. Since taking power in Burkina Faso, Traoré has launched a string of reforms focused entirely on national self-reliance. From expelling foreign mining companies that looted Burkina Faso's natural wealth, to launching agricultural revolutions, building local factories, and declaring that Africa is not for sale. Traoré has become a lightning rod for a new kind of leadership, one that refuses to be a puppet of foreign powers. What Traoré is doing in Burkina Faso is not just political. It's symbolic. It's inspirational. It is the declaration that African nations have value, talent, and sovereignty, and they can grow with their own people, not through foreign dependency. So when Donald Trump, speaking to some of the world's most powerful executives, chooses to cite Traoré's model, it signals a profound shift in narrative. Let's be clear. This is not just about America or Burkina Faso. It is about global labor equity, economic dignity, and who owns the future of work. For decades, Western companies, particularly in the tech sector, have aggressively outsourced talent. India, as the world's outsourcing capital, has benefited immensely. Tech hubs like Bangalore have become essential to the operations of Silicon Valley. But this rise has come at a price. The price of job displacement in other countries, from America to Nigeria, from Canada to Kenya. Trump is now saying what many are thinking. Is globalization working for our people? He is demanding that American companies follow the lead of nationalistic development, invest in local education, train domestic engineers, create opportunities for citizens, and stop prioritizing foreign labor at the expense of national development. Now, let's consider the backlash. Immediately following Trump's speech, several corporate leaders responded. Some labeled his remarks as xenophobic, others called it anti-globalization, and many distanced themselves from the comparison to Traoré. But what they didn't say is this: they had no counterargument. Because beneath the politics and controversy lies a truth that cannot be ignored. The global economy has become exploitative, and it's time for a reset. Trump's admiration of Traoré's model was not an accident. It was a warning. He said, "If Africa can rise with its own hands, why can't America do the same?" This moment also raises questions for African leaders. If a Western leader is now citing Captain Traoré as a figure to emulate, what are the rest of Africa's leaders doing? Why are so many still begging former colonial powers for solutions when their own people are capable of building nations? Why are they still flying to Paris, to Brussels, to Washington, when the answer lies in Ouagadougou? As the tech summit continued, Trump doubled down, saying, "AI is going to decide the future of the world. And if we don't train and hire Americans for it, we're going to lose control of our destiny." This is what Captain Traoré understands. You build your nation with your people, or someone else will own your future. And this is where the message hits hardest. Because in the end, whether you are in Silicon Valley or in the Sahel, the principle remains the same. A country that does not invest in its people will eventually be owned by those who do. Captain Ibrahim Traoré may be a young leader from a small nation, but his influence is growing beyond borders. His insistence on self-reliance, national pride, and African solutions is inspiring a new generation of leaders, and now, even former U.S. presidents. Tonight, we are witnessing an ideological shift. Where once Africa looked to the West for models, now the West is beginning to look to Africa, not for charity, but for leadership and sovereignty and purpose. Trump's words may be controversial, but they are a reflection of a new reality. The world is tired of exploitation, tired of watching global companies grow while local communities starve. The world wants justice in economics and dignity in labor. As the speech concluded, Trump said, "America is for Americans, just as Burkina Faso is for the Burkinabe." And with that, he exited the stage, leaving behind a stunned audience, a trending global conversation, and an unlikely bridge between two bold leaders separated by continents, but united in conviction. Whether you agree with him or not, one thing is certain: the world is changing, and the age of passive leadership is coming to an end. Thank you for joining us on this breaking development. Stay tuned as we bring you reactions from global economists, African thought leaders, and industry experts on this unprecedented political moment.
Disclaimer. The content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.